So 297 today, we're talking about some standouts in yesterday's matchup between Toronto and Ottawa, game six, where Toronto they end up moving on to play Florida in the second round. Played a very complete game yesterday, and they got a lot of production from their top guys, and they needed that. Guys like William Nylander stepped up, and him together with Max Pacioretty was one of the more lethal combinations throughout this game at 5-on-5. And then, of course, Austin Matthews stepped in, and then Mitch Marner stepped in, and all those guys were very productive. All those guys were very engaged, and they were getting a lot more production throughout their lineup too. And it felt like a theme throughout the first few games where Matthew Nyes was just outworking a lot of them and outworking the opponent a lot of the time and just battling a lot of the time. And it kind of seemed like he was a lone ranger in that sense, where he was constantly trying to create havoc, constantly trying to be engaged offensively, but also defensively, trying to shut plays down, and trying to keep plays to the outside, trying to box guys out. And I felt like over the course of the last two games, they've really ramped it up to the point where it's not just Matthew Nyes doing that, it's a lot of other guys being engaged in that. Because Matthew Nyes, I feel like, has been a key component to being able to create havoc offensively, but also defensively and also physically. And so you need to have more guys going than just Matthew Nyes in playoff hockey. And I felt like yesterday was an example of that. It was Max Pacioretty, it was Max Domi, it was Pontus Holmberg, it was Scott Laughton. It was on the backside like Simon Benoit, Brandon Carlo. Oliver Ekman Larsson showed some potential there. And just some other guys who, like Matthew Nyes, he didn't have any points in this game, and he honestly was not that noticeable. This was probably the game I didn't notice him as much compared to other games, but just when you're talking about physical play and setting the tone and being able to be engaged offensively, defensively, a lot of these Leafs guys were just very engaged in all facets of the game, and they're very productive and they're very reliable in all facets of the game, which is really good to see. I mean, obviously, Austin Matthews was just pretty self-explanatory one we could talk about. I really like Mitch Marner's playmaking, but I really think the best player on Toronto in this game was William Nylander. He stepped up to the occasion, and 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. It was his birthday, 4 shots on net as well. Just was very productive offensively, very productive from the flanks. He was shooting well, he was passing well, he was making plays, he was all over the puck, hounding the puck, tracking back. Like he was doing a lot of different things, and sometimes you notice it a little inconsistently with how he plays defensively, and sometimes just gets caught roaming around out there. But I think when you're talking about William Nylander, you just want to be at his best offensively, and that's what he's done, and he showcased that throughout the last few games or so. And I think this game was just a prime example of that, and hopefully we see more of it longer term. And I was really impressed with Max Pacioretty, his forechecking detail, his ability to get stick on puck, his ability to defend, his ability to seal the walls, his ability to box out guys as well was also decent. And I really liked his ability to be engaged offensively in 50-50 puck battles in the corners and just digging pucks loose, getting pucks free, and being able to work to get pucks back. So he was doing a great job of that. Same with Max Domi in that sense, and I thought Max Domi was very effective around the puck and off the puck. And one of the guys who I thought was really noticeable physically was Scott Laughton, and just plays like when you talk about Scott Laughton, you're not getting a guy who's really productive offensively and defensively. I wouldn't even really consider him more of a defensive player. His positioning is fine. I just think there's a lot of volume that gets thrown out there when he's on the ice. And this goes for shots, this goes for playmaking, this goes for all sorts of different things. Like he gives up a lot when he's on the ice. That's what I've noticed with him. So I feel like he's overrated in that sense defensively, but with Lawton, what the most intriguing component to his game is by far his physicality because he just gets under guys' skin. And no matter if you're a top player, if you're a middle tier lineup, or if you're at the bottom of the lineup, he can find a way to piss you off. And he does that regularly. And he was doing that a lot yesterday. He was just doing it nonstop, like every single time he was on the ice, every single period he was playing, it was just constant. He was constantly looking to use his speed, constantly looking to create havoc. Actually, I would say those are the two best components. His speed and his physicality. His speed is an asset because it allows him to seal gaps and be able to close on guys quickly. And his physicality is obviously pretty self-explanatory and how he's able to weaponize that. Outside of that, I thought Brandon Carlo was noticeable defensively, obviously a shutdown defenseman and more known for a shutdown play. Again, I think he's a little bit overhyped as a shutdown defenseman. I wouldn't consider him a premier shutdown defenseman. He's more like a number five, number six defenseman to me. And some of the shot suppression analytics, it's kind of the same thing in terms of how he's able to, yes, he can stifle guys. Yes, he can use his size. Yes, he can use his frame. But when you talk about the analytical component of that, sometimes it doesn't link up with the eye and how you're viewing him. I think when you're looking at him with just the eye test, he's attractive just because of how he's able to use his reach, how he's able to defend with his stick, how he's able to keep guys to the outside. But when you look at him from an analytical point of view, he does give up a lot. Similar to Lawton, he does give up a lot. And this goes for shot volume and this goes from interior shots, stuff like that. But where he's most effective is how he's able to use his stick, and from an eye test point of view, how he's able to use his reach. And I thought he was doing a good job of it yesterday. As for Ottawa, I thought Thomas Chabot was noticeable offensively in transition, being able to carry the play up ice, be the F1 or the F2. A lot of times, especially at this stage of his career, I've noticed Chabot become more of the F1 on the rush, where he's not afraid to carry the play. I think we would see times, it was like, I don't want to compare him to Eric Carlson in Ottawa, but Eric Carlson had a knack for being that F1 style guy who would push pace and he would be active up ice. He'd be active in the ozone. He would sprint below the top of the offensive circle and the face-off circle. I think there's a little bit of elements in Shabbat's game that are similar to that, but I don't think he's Eric Carlson in Ottawa. I don't think he's that. I just think there are elements ingrained in his mindset and how he approaches the offensive side of the game and transition side of the game that make him stand out and make him noticeable. And I thought he was doing a lot of that yesterday. As for some other guys, I thought Claude Giroux was noticeable as a playmaker, more of a guy who you can rely upon up and down your top nine, who can be an offensive guy, be a defensive guy, be a little bit everything at this stage of his career. I think he can bring it all. And I think he's a guy who still chips in offensively when need be and can be reliable offensively when needed over time as well. David Perron had a really sick goal from a sharp angle. I believe it was off his backhand, and he banked it off Anthony Stoller's head and into the net. That was a game tying goal late in the third. Obviously, it didn't matter because Toronto took the lead late, and then they ended up getting an empty netter goal from Nylander. So that didn't really matter. But the goal itself from Perron was really cool in terms of how he's able to find the space, how he's able to use his hands, and then how he's able to adapt his hands to be able to shoot in tight and create the release in tight. And then Brady Tkachuk, of course, was Brady Tkachuk all throughout this game, just offensively, defensively, physically, just Brady Tkachuk, exactly what you'd want Brady Tkachuk to be. Outside of that, there were a few guys that showed a little bit of skill here and there. I thought Stützle could have brought a little bit more throughout this game. And even some other guys like Drake Batherson could have brought a little bit more. I thought Dylan Cousins was nowhere near to be found in this game. Same with Ridley Gregg. And I think when you have a lot of those guys who aren't going, and even Shane Pinto's another one, Jake Sanderson's another one. And when you have like Jake Sanderson was noticeable defensively, but you need offensive out of him. And you just need to rely upon these guys if you want to continue the series on. And that was one of the main reasons why Ottawa wasn't able to continue the series.